Good morning, everybody. I would like to talk about the tarot deck. It is a source of many videos here on YouTube. There is a lot of superstitions, some sciences, and all that involved with the tarot deck. So let's start off with the history of the tarot deck. A lot of people would like to say that it is this ancient tool used in divination, but it's not. Now, I have done my research. I'm just going to use the computer to explain that part now.
Though today we associate them with the occult, tarot cards were originally just another card game, one similar to modern-day bridge. In fact, like other decks, the first recorded tarot cards showed up in Europe in the 15th century, with the most popular sets selling in Italy to wealthy families. The printing press had yet to arrive, and since hand-painted cards were all that existed, it cost a considerable amount of cash to commission what was essentially dozens of teensy paintings. Like any deck, these early tarot cards, tarocchi cards, in Italian, had suits, trump cards, and even pips. Since they hadn't yet become an excuse to dip into the occult, the only reason anyone thought to disapprove was when the cards led to excessive gambling. While some people dabbled, the widespread use of tarot cards for divination only took off in the late 1700s, when Frenchman Jean-Baptiste Alliot published the first definitive guide to tarot card reading. Pseudonymed Attila, he wrote a guide to using the cards and released his own deck alongside it. He gave meaning to each of the cards, incorporating beliefs about astronomy and the four elements. He claimed to have borrowed heavily from the Book of Thoth, an Egyptian text supposedly written by Thoth, the Egyptian god of wisdom. He gave meaning to each of the cards, incorporating beliefs about astronomy and the four elements. Attila was also the first to assign a specific order and spread to the cards, both frontwards and backwards, a system still used today. His works took off and he published a revised edition of his guide in 1791, becoming the first person to be a professional tarot reader. 1909 was the next time tarot cards received a major update. The Rider-Waite deck, courtesy of publisher William Rider and tarot reader A.E. Waite, is still in use. You've probably seen the illustrations. Like Attila, the Rider-Waite deck included a printed guide on how to read the deck and the meanings of each card. In this deck, the intricacy of the scenes told a story when cards were placed together. The latest tarot card revival in the 1970s is the result of a reprint and revision of the Rider-Waite deck, along with a new guidebook by Stephen Kaplan.
Okay, now that we know the history of the tarot deck, we have to take away some of its importance. It's not an ancient tool. It is something that came on later, during many of the pagan revivals that have happened throughout Europe in the 14 to 1700s. Okay. So, what needs to be talked about now is some of the superstitions involved with the tarot deck. There is the one where it says that you should not buy your first tarot deck, that your first tarot deck should come from a friend, and I kind of love this idea. We have so many unknowns. So how did this superstition come forth? Because a lot of superstitions are based on little tidbits of fact. Maybe there was a time where the tarot deck was a gift of ascension, where once you reached a certain level, you were presented with a tarot deck to show your level of commitment, your level of accomplishment in paganism or some other form. So getting a tarot deck was a major gift. And I would love to see that type of thing happen in paganism, where the tarot deck is not something that we buy so freely, that it is like a gift, an accomplishment. But we can't do that because many of us, like myself, are solitary practitioners. And so we don't know anybody that can evaluate or will buy us a deck of cards. Okay? So we have to buy our own. But I was lucky. I had a good friend who saw that I was talking about tarot decks. She actually bought me my first deck, my only deck that I have. And so I'm glad to have the Druidcraft Tarot deck. But the problem that I'm having here is that people are buying multiple tarot decks. They're almost having like a video every other week showing that they're unboxing this tarot deck or that tarot deck. I've done my research on some people where they're selling their tarot reading services, and you can choose from like one of 20 different decks. And I just think that is stupid. I believe that we should have a connection with our tools. A tarot deck is just a tool. It is an extension of ourselves. And I value experience more than anything. There are people with experience, people with knowledge. I trust them. Now, I have more faith into a person that has an old, well-used deck of cards compared to somebody that has 15 of them, because most of them are probably on the shelf collecting dust. You see, if I was to grab a card, like I got one in my hand right here, what was that? You don't know, because you don't know your cards. You see, a lot of people, when they buy all these decks, they're going, oh, well, that was a cool, ooh, there's another cool one, let's go buy that one. I believe in that we have to become connected with the deck and every card individually. This is the Three of Swords. Now, it has a specific story to it. It has a certain meaning to it. But what does the artwork say? You see, that's important. I used to do a lot of role-playing. There was a profession in the game system that I played called the Tarot Mage. I'm going to put the picture of this up on the screen for you. But it says the Tarot Mage is a pure spell user of essence whose power emanates from the symbolic symbols embodied by the tarot. Though rare, the Tarot Mage can be found almost anywhere, as he tends to wander the world in search of enlightenment. He is trained in several crafting skills in order that he may build the 5 symbolic items, the rod, the cup, the sword, the pentacle, plus the tarot deck itself, through which his power is manifested. Because the sword is an important tool in his profession, he is able to master some basic sword combat skills more readily than the average student of essence. Okay. In this game, the Tarot Mage has to build his own deck. Now, do you remember that little clip I just played for you? The computer stated that all these decks had to be handmade. Well, this is what this guy did. So he had to spend a few weeks just to make one card. He couldn't just pop into the store and go, oh, there's my tarot deck. No. He built a relationship with every single card, like this one. And he knows the details. And do we know the details? So many of us, well, oh, that's a pretty picture, and this is what we read, and then that's it. But what does the picture show? Now, if you study the Celtic areas, there's an Awen on here, and you'll see it with the swords and those 3 holes in the tree. We have to have a connection. And if you are having 15 decks, you're not really building a connection with your cards. They're there, and that's that. Which brings me to the part where people are not going to like me for saying this, but tarot decks are becoming pagan blame. It is a way to measure just how pagan you are. It is a way to measure your success as a pagan, and all that is by having all these decks. We kind of make fun sometimes of guys in their car collections. I mean, we look at Leno, look at that massive car collection he has. And some of them are pretty amazing, some of them pretty nice. And he can brag about this car, that car. Well, we have pagans out there who are bragging, oh, I got the right of way, I got the druid craft, I have the dragon, I have the women's rights, I have this tarot deck, that tarot deck, and then they get to go, and I also have this oracle deck, that oracle deck, and they can come up with this little name, and it's to make themselves feel better about themselves. It is a way for them to think that they are better than that person because they have 4 more decks than that person. And because it is becoming a bling item, it's lost some of its value. We have all these people that are making all these videos about the tarot deck, and yet they have so little connection with their decks. They are pretty pictures, and that's that. So we need to evaluate how important our deck is, and is it an actual part of our practice, or is it some way for us to make money? If you're doing tarot magic, that is using your tarot cards into your ritual, into your spells, then it is also very important that you have a knowledge and understanding of every single card that you have, that you can quickly look at it and know what it was. Because magic is the pooling of energies, shaping it, focusing it, picturing it, and releasing it. Well, if you don't know what this is, if you can't picture this, you just know, well, it's a 2 of cups, in fact, 2 of cups, then you're not picturing it. Remember, it is everything that we image that makes the tool effective. This becomes a focus point. And if you have no idea what it looks like, the little details into it, your spell will fail. Because here is something that is full of color, of imagery, and you are literally blind to it. What also needs to be stated is that there is really no difference between one tarot deck and another. You see, the tarot deck has become a standard product, unlike the oracle decks. The tarot deck has a set story, and it tells about the journey of the Fool. And the 4 symbols represent the seasons of the year. And so, no matter what deck you grab, be the Halloween, the Druid Craft, Rider-Waite, you pick out a card, it means the same thing in any deck. Okay? So technically, you don't need all these multiple decks. You're just looking for pretty pictures. That's it. That is why it's important, if you're going to do a tarot deck, take the time, study the cards, and get the deck that is comfortable for you. Buying 4, 5, 10 decks is a waste of money, because this tarot deck is going to tell you the same thing as the other tarot deck. Alright? I forgot to mention 2 other superstitions involving the tarot deck. The other one is that the tarot deck is to be stored in a silk bag. You're not going to see this because this is my blue screen. I have a blue cloth that I wrap my tarot deck in. I do not allow my tarot deck to touch tables. I will unfold the cloth, and that's what I put my spread on. There are the superstition that only certain people are allowed to touch the deck, being it's considered by many to be a sacred tool. then only the owner, the user of the tarot deck should touch it. But if you're doing divinations, then there are times where the person that is getting their fortune read is like cut the cards once or place their hands on the deck and concentrate on the question that they have. Other than that, they're not supposed to touch the deck. The other one, and this one it was put on all cards, and I see it a lot going onto the tarot deck, and that is you are not allowed to put your deck of cards, your tarot deck, away from after given a reading without shuffling it at least once. When you grab your deck after the reading and you just grab them and you put them back into the box, the energies from that reading are still in there on those cards. And so you are supposed to grab that deck and, like I said, shuffle it once. That is releasing those older energies, cleaning the deck in a way, then you put it away. I just wanted to share those with you, and so everybody take care, be at peace.